Smooth 98.1. This is Freshly Pressed. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines across the country. And as always, we'd love to get your thoughts as well. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're all streaming live on YouTube, so you can catch that live stream on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth981. The analyst is in, and this morning it's Chibuzor. Good morning, Chibuzor, and welcome.
Good morning, Zibby. Another,
All right. Another day, which we hope is great. Okay. Hopefully. All right. Let's start off with the first headline. And this one comes from Vanguard. Military hands over Chibok girl, 330 other victims to Borno government.
Okay, so well, this is a long time coming, and this is almost in my view bittersweet. Bitter in the sense that this should never happen in the first place, and also that the time that's taken to for this lady to be recovered in food or returned back from Hollywood numbers. So for most of us that any of us that can remember back in 2014, I believe, some a group of girls about a school in Chibok area of Borno State was attacked. Um, about 276 girls initially were captured. They had gone to run for, I think, they're going to take an exam, the final exam to go to school, despite the security that happened. And some, at that point, there was supposedly some, there was supposed to be like heightened security around the school, and because there had been also some attacks around the same area. But the young ladies had gone to school, they were between the ages of 16 and 18, and they were trying to take their final exams. And they were attacked by the what we know today as Boko Haram. And Boko Haram, yeah, 226 of them reportedly were taken in the squad. So we mentioned about 700 and we are 2019. So between that time and several years later, this 2014 is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Since then, we've had some escape. I think in the story, we talk about rescue out 24. The more recent rescues have seen these ladies that have children, come back with children after being forcefully married. 10 years of their lives taken, chunks of their lives taken away, and now pushed into points where they have to recover from all of that to face the reality of what their new lives are going to be, or new lives are. So it's sad that it's taking this long, but we're hopeful and thankful that he's finally been recovered. He's come back to the sense of what we hope will be some level of at some point normalcy for her. We do hope and expect that the government, well-meaning Nigerians, family, would give us some support. Not just, and we're not just talking about financial but support, as in give her a support system that she can rely on. We help her integrate back into society, help the children that she's brought back from this event, help her recover from the trauma, and all and everything around her. So I think that's her name is Ihi Abdul, and she's one of the Chibok girls that will return. There were also about, I think that there were other people that were rescued from this particular activity, and this was from the yeah, this was from the there was an activity around the Sambisa forest. Sambisa forest used to be originally was a forest reserve, and over the years since the heights of the Boko Haram insurgency has been used as a hangout or hideout. Sorry, I think hideout is the word, or base of operations for Boko Haram. Interestingly, when he was captured initially, the current vice president was governor of Borno State, and at some point had reportedly seen the girls and giving feedback that they were good out of it. Nothing much came out of it in that at that time. So she was returned along with her two children and 330 women and children who were also rescued from Boko Haram. So we are very happy that the Nigerian military has done this and they were briefed by um actually this information came out when a group of journalists were being briefed and to give feedback on information about this operation by the Nigerian Army. So we are happy, that this was done by the Nigerian Army. I think there's a seventh division of the Nigerian Army, and we're thankful for the work they've done. And we're also appreciative of the fact that Nigerian Army officers, irrespective of whatever is happening in the country, irrespective of our different opinions about how the country should be run or where the country is going to, even irrespective of how we might feel about some of them with our own personal experiences from time to time might be negative, we do have to admit that, at the worst of situations, these guys put their lives down for the country. Where the rest of us try and catch our sleep and try and catch our rest, these guys are out there in the middle of nowhere, putting their lives down, and we do wish them the best and hope that the country also should take care of them while they're serving out of service the way they ought to be taken care of.
All right, thank you for that, Chibuzor. God bless the military. Let's see. Jerry says, can you confirm it's one of the original Chibok girls? I don't believe this government. We can't confirm that. The newspaper and the military have confirmed that. So we have to. Yes.
We do hope, obviously, like Zibby has said, the military has confirmed, the families at some point will confirm. I don't think there's any press war to be won by saying I've recovered the Chibok girl 10 years after. So I do believe she's one of the Chibok girls that have been recovered, and I hope that she.
Now, speaking about this, is there any chance? Because I mean, these girls were taken when they were very young girls. Now they're coming back as women who have lived through unimaginable trauma. She's coming back with children. That means it's obvious what has happened. And is there any chance that they can actually go back to having a normal life, even with all the interventions that anyone can provide? Can her life ever be normal?
Never. That's just the stark reality of this. She will not be able to talk to her like you said. She's now a mother of children, so she's lost what was left of her early teens or her teenage years, what was left of her transiting from being a teenager to an adult, and then during that space of time, she's now been saddled with responsibility taking care of kids. So she's not going to be able to, in reality, she's not going to gain that lost time. I think what we do hope for her is that people that fall into that kind of situation. I'm not a professional psychologist or therapist by any account. Is that she is able to get back to some level where she's able to live a productive life, take her experiences and make something good out of it, and also get the support that these years that she's lost does not become a hindrance or a holdback. Because, like I said, she has children, she has responsibilities, and even in taking care of those children, she's able to put aside that trauma and turn it to some value to be able to take care of this new children, not bring them into not so that the trauma does not become generational. So that's for me, I think that's what the expectations should be, because really anybody who goes through something, even for the shortest period of time, would be scarred by that experience one way or the other, because of 10 years.
All right, let's move on to the next headline. And this one is coming from Punch. Domestic workers must benefit from 70,000 naira minimum wage. And this is according to the Senate.
So the Senate, some members of the Senate or the Senate, well, there's members of the Senate before the Senate in this instance, and the National Society for Women, National Council of Women for Women's Society have sought to include the domestic servants in the 70,000 naira national minimum wage scheme. I am a bit worried. The first thing that stands out for me is the use of the word servants. Obviously, we know what they are talking about. A lot of us have people who work in our homes, who support our staff, who support our households, help us with our chores, help us with the things that we do at home, and these are people they're referring to as domestic. You know, And it's not just about them. You also have other staff that you use, apart from the guys that work directly in your house. People have drivers, people have, this is not just because one of the challenges I have with this call is that it looks specifically at this segment. And there are a lot of people who fall under that read. There are people who are, the people that work as tailors in small shops, they also should benefit from what is supposedly supposed to be a minimum wage, and so we're not even talking about a living wage, but there are challenges around, and I do know that there are laws about the application of some of these wages depending on the number of staff you have. So if you do look about at them as household staff, some of those laws might come into place. But in reality, what they are trying to codify what is expecting that these people are treated with some level of dignity and able to earn something that is able to keep them in good stead. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we do have very interesting or very variable ways that a lot of people deal with the kind of contracting or kind of arrangements they have with their household help. Some of them are, have, these days we have a lot more of the professional ones who come under some third party provider who brings them from some part of the country and getting some arrangement where they get paid as middlemen or middlemen of some sort. Some people bringing people from their extended family or some indigent person that needs support. And so there are other things that are built into some of these arrangements on how they are supported. Unfortunately, these things happen. Well, I would say unfortunately, for some Nigerians who are not aware that these are normal practices within Nigeria, but I saw, I think was it the former deputy senate president, these things do not fly when you go outside the country. So be careful if you take these practices out. But what they are speaking about basically is that can we give them a fair wage? So they're trying to tie it to the new minimum wage sign process. It would be interesting to see how they go about this and if this actually comes to pass. I have my personal opinions about how the Senate treats some of these things, but like I said, am I sure something that should go into law, or am I sure that allows people into that should allow it should be people should actually take into practice? I think I'll stand on the fence or sit on the fence on this in this instance, but yes, at the end of the day, what we do need are laws that protect every worker, every person in the country, because it's not just about the wages that some of these people are being paid, right? How they're being treated. Is their rights within the house? Is there about a type of abuse that they're subject to, which goes unpunished? Okay, go ahead, yeah. So even if you give them all the money, some of this money will never get into their own hands directly. It goes into some middleman, it goes into one obscure uncle or auntie, or the agent, or some agent that never remits that money back. It just disappears down a well that nobody can account for. And these guys get humiliated, abused, lose a part of their childhood or their youth, and they are never paid for that. They are never paid for that sacrifice. So, you know what? We need to do a lot more better. And it's not just about throwing wages around or numbers around.
Absolutely. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Stay with us. More headlines and, of course, more of your comments. Stay with us. And yeah, I was going to say, it's not just employees in domestic roles that are abused and treated badly. It happens everywhere.
That was everywhere. So I've heard when people come and tell me, this is what they told them. Guys, some of my friends that work in banks, and this is what when they recount the experiences that they had in the banks and how people spoke as in verbal abuse. I'm like what on earth? Like, you do that. I can easily send that boss to disciplinary and he's out of the company, unless maybe he's a top guy who's very valuable. But it's normal business. They just come insult everybody. It's crazy. Every day people endure trauma.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Zibby here. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines across the country. Would love to hear from you. So let us know your thoughts. 0809 440 That's the WhatsApp number. You can tweet at Smooth981. Hashtag is Freshly Pressed 981. And we're also streaming live on YouTube. So you can catch that live stream as well. Our channel Smooth981, and do not forget to subscribe. Let's go on to the headline coming from The Nation. 50% salary cut for reps, renewable after 6 months. And this is according to the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
So the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajin Abbas, has said that there are 50% cut which they decided recently to help indigent Nigerians, obviously within the current economic environment, can be renewed. Can be renewed after a 6-month period. So recently we had the members of the House of Reps offering 50% of their salaries for the next 6 months to help buy food items for distribution to other indigent Nigerians that need that support. And I think it's been driven by they had inaugurated what they call the National Legislative Network on Nutrition and Food Security. I like to see happening. And that's supposed to push this activity or this thing. And the speaker, obviously, as the top guy there, is the patron of the network. He's also pleaded with in announcing that in announcing what they want to do for indigent Nigerians. He's also pleaded with Nigerians to shun the planned protests, and they said that it's detrimental to the country's development. He's agreed that there's obviously growing concern with the food security resulting from prevailing hikes in prices, economic challenges, and that they are working hand in hand with the government to resolve these issues, despite that this not being the best of times. So there's something I'm quickly going to jump to, which is there's a lot of comments about asking people to shun a protest. And I do understand from some point of my brain or some point where some of these are, I'm going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I'm trying to understand where they are coming from. So typically in Nigeria, we've seen protests that have led to where there's been some breakdown in law and order. You've had, breakdown in law and order, you had destruction of property and stuff like that. But where I worry about is that when we have repeatedly have people in top power, and some of these guys had led previous protests when they were in the opposition against things that they stood strongly for, supposedly strongly against, sorry.
Mm.
And now the shoe is on the other foot, and everybody's saying, you know what, it's ranging from and he's fine, he's within his rights to ask people not to go into protest, and that they're working on it, because obviously he has a responsibility and part of it to actual threats, and we had some of the threats yesterday. Unfortunately, it's not captured within the stories, but there were some pseudo threats or subtle threats being pushed by people speaking for the government and trying to call out people for carrying out the protest. I do not know who's behind the protest at the moment. I do not know who is championing it or pushing it, but do Nigerians have a right to protest is one of the questions that I'll keep asking. Yes, we do. What is the role of the government and the security forces that Nigerians pay for via their taxes when there's a protest? Their role is to ensure that security is granted. At the end of the day, Nigerians need to understand that we have roles and responsibility. Any item that is destroyed during a protest will be paid for from our own taxpayers' money. Security forces are being paid for from our taxpayers' money to do particular jobs. I would want that we get to the point where security forces, do the actual security and do the entire intelligence and ensure that these things are not and do the work to ensure that these things are not hijacked, and come out on the days of protest and actually set all those barricaded areas where people can march, do their protests, sing their songs, and do it peacefully without disrupting anything, and have enough presence to deter people from doing anything wrong.
All right, thank you, Chibuzor, for that. 0809 440 981. Apologies on the live stream. I can see your comments coming through. We're going to try to sort out that sound so you can hear Chibuzor properly. Apologies for that. But let's see this message. All right, let's go on to the next headline and then we'll come back to the messages. This one is from Daily Trust. Governor Lawal Defense Minister trade blame over Zamfara insecurity. And this comes from Daily Trust.
Okay, so what's happening in the Zamfara state government has retreated its stance against reconciling with bandits and declared that there's no external pressure or internal pressure that will force the administration to negotiate with bandits. So this was said by the special assistant, the senior special assistant to the governor of media and mobilization, Alhaji Farouk Ahmad. And he stated this in Gusau while responding to comments that were made by the former governor and now Minister for State for Defense, Mohammed Bello Matawali. So Mr. Ahmad, or sorry, Alhaji Ahmad, emphasized that the current governor is doing his best and he's making progress in combating banditry. And they highlighted it by the recent, I think, recent comments by I think one of the captured bandits, or a prominent bandit leader from the state. Okay, so he's not captured; he was actually released a video. And in the video that was rolled out by that bandit, he spoke about how the escalations of conflict was because of some of the policies that were rolled out by the former governor, which included initiating a amnesty scheme, giving financial rewards and protection for bandits who surrendered their arms and abandoned criminality. So basically, there's a back and forth between the current governor and the former governor, and the and we do know about the larger security issues in Zamfara and other parts of the country that are around in the same neighborhood, around the same area. What we do expect, or what we do hope, is that there's some resolution to the issues that are happening around those areas. And what we would expect, and I think this is becoming a recurring theme of some sort, is instead of having cooperation and having lines of communication between the former and the current governors, or former and current people, to actually draw on their experiences, draw on ideas, and share ideas together. What we seem to have a lot in this country is public outbursts by people who should have better lines of communication to people who are in power. And when I hear stuff like that, I wonder about, if they're having this kind of public outbursts and exchanges, how do the people who they serve, how are they able to communicate to them? Because if they can't hear the guys who we expect should have some audience with them and have these discussions in, less public spaces, then how are they able to listen to the people who are on the street who are trying to communicate the same issues to them? So I have a bit of a challenge with them, but what whichever way or tools that need to happen, by looking at, to be able to judge if something has progress, obviously there are KPIs. And when they were doing when the previous Governor Matawali was doing his program, um, typically when you have projects or programs like that, there are ways to measure how successful or unsuccessful they are. Were there anything put in on ground to measure the success or failure of that project? How have they been able to measure it and look back at it and say it was successful or not? Because if it's not successful, there's no harm in trying something and it failing. The problem is continuing to do it and allowing it to continue to fade over an extended period of time without having to change it. So what I do hope at some point, for the sake of the people of Zamfara State and the rest of that period, is that they do get together and, instead of all these public brickbats, sit down, put some ideas together, and for the sake of their state and even the position that the former governor is sitting in, which is on a federal level and in charge of security, do work together to actually solve this problem long term. And it's not going to be solved by going back and forth on the pages of newspapers or on, and attacking each other across public forums.
0809444091.
I'm sorry, I'm going to chip in something. There's the fact that, there's some comment about, uh, there's a there was a quote where they say, "Oh, how can a government that refuses to reconcile with bandits be connected to them?" And it shows we've in trying to do a lot of these weapons return programs, reconciliation programs. What we tend to do in a lot of instances when we don't put them on the table properly and do them properly is that we make some of these things attractive. There is no deterrent, or there's not a strong enough deterrent for other people who are sitting on the standards, not on the sidelines, not to do the same thing in the future. And while, yes, there's a time to talk, but there's also a time to wield the stick. And we need to also find that balance quickly. A lot of our engagement with bandits all around the country.
All right, let's go on to the messages coming through. This one is from Ajayi. Ajayi says, "Good morning. The 50% cut by the National Assembly in their salaries is just a ploy to deceive the masses, especially as their basic salary is so insignificant compared to the allowances they appropriate to themselves. And Jerry says, please tell them that until they tell us in totality what their allowances are and why they are taking so much, um, tell them I will lead the protest. I won't be telling them. You can tell them yourself. And this is why you write to your rep, you contact your representative. These are the people that seem to just walk away and don't get a lot of accountability, really, for some reason. Yika Bolu says, agreed it's your right to protest, but I also have my own right not to partake in that, right? I think, yes. So
Agreed.
don't block the road because I need to get to work. Also, while you protest, please do not vandalize any property. I hope you understand the meaning of 10 days of rage. That's what they tag the protest.
Okay.
Um, okay, Joseph. Yes, Joseph says it's unfortunate that whenever the government hears protests, they start preaching peace and plead for patience. That the government is on top of the situation. The Senate or the House of Assembly should keep their so-called salaries to themselves. If they feel our pain, let them surrender their allowances wholly or half of it. Then we know, and we're convinced of their love for Nigeria. Let's move on to the next headline, and this one is still with regards to the protest. The NLC urging dialogue with the organizers. Who are the organizers?
This is one I can't answer that question, Zibby. So what we had, the president's one of the president's very good close friends at the moment, that's the NLC president, Joe Ajero. He was part of those guys that were busy singing after their last engagement. So they're obviously a very good terms. And he's just won a recent battle, the new minimum wage. Good job. So the NLC president, Joe Ajero, urged President Bola Tinubu to address the grievances of those planning to protest. He said that in a statement that dialogue between the government and the protest organizers is crucial. Millions of Nigerians are suffering under the weight of economic policies that have exacerbated poverty and deprivation. The statistics point to that. NBS has said that there are 103 million people below the poverty line. He's rolled out all the numbers, and I do agree. I do agree that some level of discussion should happen. If it has to be with the president directly with everybody, the president cannot speak with everybody. Even if he sends all his ministers back to their various states and asks them to set up public hearings or public town hall meetings, he's not going to be able to do that with everybody. But yes, he can come out and make a public statement doesn't that tries to reconcile the country and tells them what he steps. So we do hear a lot of it, but at times, repeating it from time to time is not a bad thing. And we have a lot of people that are paid to do that instead of throwing out, we have like one Egmont that is in his cabinet that, is supposed to be disseminating information instead of throwing out threats and telling us about everybody who is in the cupboard and trying to bring the government down. So there are people that, this can be done. But obviously, like Zibby pointed out earlier, we do have reps. That's what we expect the reps. We don't expect the reps like the speaker to be sitting down somewhere in Abuja and giving out these things about how 50% of their salary is going out, and all that. We expect the reps to have gone to in this time of where there's a major discussion about something like this. What we had expected in most cases and what happens in Senate crimes or people who take a lot of responsibility for their actions is that they go back to their various constituencies and start engaging and start, talking with their people and start, even have constituency offices running out to actually link up with the people and having those discussions. There needs to be, yes, Zibby asked a very cogent question about, who's putting together this protest, who are the leaders of the protest. One of the reasons and one of the red flags that have been drawn against this protest by several people are that we don't know who the leaders or who are leading the protest. But we did have a protest that was led by the NLC in the recent times, and there was there was little or no attention paid to it. And while I'm not saying that we should, I think at times that if you're going to put out our chest to do something, we should come out whole and commit to it. So I'm not too much of a supporter of faceless leadership, but leadership is leadership. You stand by your words and you lead it. But I do understand the risks that some of these people would face or think that they would face and why they would they might choose to go this way. So it's not a win-win for everybody. At the end of the day, what are we supposedly trying to achieve at the protest? Nigerians are going through a very challenging period. Nigerians are trying to speak out from either those who will be at the protest or not be at the protest, either they are at their homes or in their living rooms or wherever, or their places of work on that day. I don't think there's any Nigerian that does not understand that we're going through challenging periods. I don't think there's any Nigerian that is not feeling the pinch, well, unless you are seriously insulated. And there are some Nigerians that is extremely insulated from the reality of what Nigeria is today. Well, many Nigerians are feeling that pinch. Many Nigerians, one way or the other. What we do need is not just a verbal statement or comments or speeches or press conferences by the government to say that this is what they're doing. But like I've said, and I've said this repeatedly, we also need to see the actions. We also need to see the government be less tone deaf about what the problems are. We also need the government to be seen as taking a cut. So the House of Reps have said they're giving out 50% of their salaries. And most Nigerians are saying, the chunk of the meat is not in the salary, the chunk of the meat is actually in your allowances. So you're just being false. So while you're supposedly taking an action, most Nigerians are calling it out and saying, this is not the action I should be taking, that this is not enough. And, we can argue this from morning to night, but until Nigerians consistently see their governments and government officials making the same sacrifices that they are being asked to make, Nigerians would struggle to come behind the government 100%. I know a lot of people will come out and say, the government is doing what they are going. You feel between today and tomorrow, the day of protest, we're going to see a lot of press releases, talking about where the evil direction that the protests are coming from, who is pushing it and why they're pushing for interest. But at some point as Nigerians, we need to set aside the politics from the reality and focus on the reality and the strategy to get us somewhere better instead of focusing a lot on the politics just for politics' sake.
All right, so we're almost out of time, but let's see how many messages we can quickly go through. Nick says, the president should commission the police to do their job, which is protect protesters and prevent a breakdown of law and order. And Nigeria is suffering, and the government doesn't seem to show any empathy. Jerry, coming back to Jerry's message, he says, how do you handle a family man or woman telling you their children didn't eat the whole of yesterday? There's no day you wake up without receiving a message asking for help. And this one from EVG says, firstly, there's a wave of vexation going across Africa, Kenya, and in Uganda. Nigerian politicians are ignorant of the rate of hunger in Nigeria. Can you imagine a pint of beans that used to be 3,000 naira is now 9,000 naira? Steve says the president seems to forget that more people voted against him than those who voted for him. Well, if more people voted against him, he wouldn't be president, Steve. He keeps acting with a certain sort of arrogance that makes it seem like he won the popular vote, which he did. He has various ways and means whereby he can constantly and consistently communicate with Nigerians himself, but he can't. Again, it's very important that we hold all leaders accountable. It's not just the president. There is a whole chain before I get to the president, and no one gets an easy walk.
So very soon they're going to have, sooner or later we're going to have local government elections. Do you know who's running? Have you been interested? Your House of Reps leaders, your Senate leaders or reps, your Senate representatives do get some money for constituency allowances. Have you been to their constituency office? Do you know where it is? Do you know what they're doing there? The last one I used to have in my neighborhood back in the day, it was the hangar for people that wanted to smoke and drink. You have all these things. And when I say we, myself, and every other Nigerian need to hold these people more accountable. Your local government and your representatives in the local government, your councillors, are comfortable just moving around and doing nothing and drinking and buying some drinks and smokes for the guys who are there within the neighborhood, without actually doing any value. Their own programs are focused on themselves, or maybe their party interests and not on the people's interests. Are you holding them accountable? Do you even know them? And that's where the problem starts. We don't even know the guys who are councillors within our local neighborhoods. So we only know the president because he gets the press. We do need to do a lot more and hold a lot more people accountable.
Abbas says, agree or disagree. This president has communicated more to the people than anyone we have ever had in the past. And Deji said, NLC, best friends with the president. I see what you did there. Okay. Well, that's all the time for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your messages. And special thanks to you, Chibuzor, for being on the show.
Thank you very much. You guys have a lovely day.
You stay with us. More to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
Mm.
Let's go.